What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with another video. As Survivor Series draws near, what surprises can fans expect from Raw? Well, join us now as we analyze this week's edition of the Red Brand, and we look at the wildest wrestling news stories and rumors you need to know, including Nia Jax injuring again, the Undertaker's old Kliq friend returning to Survivor Series, fans make fun of Jericho's dead bod, and much more. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. As always, we won't waste your time just recapping the matches, but we will take a look at the good, the bad, and the downright ugly from last night's show. As always, we start off with the good as number 1, a showcase of stellar skills. Last night's Raw featured a match for the ages as Ricochet and Mustafa Ali put on the proverbial wrestling clinic. This match was so good that it almost seemed like the two men were auditioning for a job in the WWE, and in a sense, maybe they were. Despite tremendous talent, there's no denying Ricochet and Mustafa Ali have had lackluster WWE careers, not because no one cares about them, but because the one person who counts thinks so, Vince McMahon. This match could have ended up on main event, but thankfully it didn't get buried on a show that few people watch. Will this change Vince's perception of either man? Well, it's unlikely, but if anyone ever claims these guys don't bring anything to the table, this match will prove them to be fools and or liars. Number 2, reviving Retribution. It looks like someone in creative may have realized that Retribution lost all credibility after its repeated losses to the Hurt Business, and rather than dropping the story, which let's be honest still has a lot of potential, it started over by having the faction attack WWE superstars near the bottom of the feeding chain. Last week's beatdown on Tucker and Ricochet was a good way to set up last night's match between Retribution's leader and Ricochet, perhaps setting the stage for a battle between Retribution and some of WWE's underutilized stars. It's too early to tell if this will happen, but it's a good way to revive Retribution, having them work their way up towards bigger stars once they get some credibility. Raw's Rogue faction may even draw in new numbers along the way, and it's clear Mustafa Ali wants Ricochet to join. Number 3, AJ Styles is solid gold. AJ Styles is back doing what he does best, playing an arrogant heel who likes to call the shots and stir the pot. Styles' self-appointed role as the captain of Raw's Men's Survivor Series team is going to lead to trouble, but it was compelling storytelling showing him manipulating the other members of the team into battling each other. Styles isn't the type of wrestler who plays a dominant heel per se, but the psychological edge he adds to his character makes him into a formidable opponent. Styles' bid to call the shots is obviously going to end up badly, and that's when things will really get interesting. Number 4, Drew and Sheamus duo. Where is WWE going with the powerful pairing of Drew McIntyre and Sheamus? Wherever they are, it's quickly become an interesting subplot on Raw as fans speculate whether Sheamus is going to turn babyface and form a team with McIntyre, or grow weary of Drew dismissing him as a teammate and snap, sparking a feud between the two powerhouses. A Drew vs Sheamus program could be a good way to keep McIntyre busy, especially if the WWE is planning on keeping Randy Orton as champion until Mania next year. While Sheamus isn't portrayed as being on the same level as McIntyre, a feud could help remind fans that the Celtic Warrior is a 3-time WWE champion and a 1-time world champion. But that was the good. What about the bad is, number 1, introducing the 24/7 Championship, also known as the We Have Nothing For You title. Now, fans know that the 24/7 Championship is a comedy title, and let's face it, R-Truth has done a good job keeping fans entertained throughout his 598th reign as champion. Nevertheless, while the title is a good fit for R-Truth, it's one step above performing on main event every week. Last night's 7-man match for wrestling's least prestigious title reinforced the notion that Tucker, Akira Tozawa, Drew Gulak, Lindsay Dorado, Gran Metalik and Eric are wrestlers no one should even care about. Granted, it gave them some television time, but is that the best the WWE can do with them? The Lucha House Party should be competing in the tag team division, while Drew Gulak should be competing for the US Championship, even if he doesn't win it. Every one of these wrestlers have either held or competed for the titles on Raw and SmackDown, and are now just being used to kill time. As for Tucker, it's a sad day in Whoville when the former Heavy Machinery star wins a championship before his much over and dare we say more talented ex-partner Otis, even if it is the 24/7 Championship. Number 2, loser Lana equals getting over. After getting put through the announcer's table an 8th time, yes, an 8th time, there's no arguing how tough Lana is, but the real question is, how over is she? Although the WWE can claim it's using Lana's repeated thrashings to get her over as a gutsy babyface, How many fans like to get behind a wrestler who is portrayed as anxious and lacking confidence? One might think they're actually burying Lana because her husband is happily working in rival promotion AEW, but Vince McMahon wouldn't do that, would he? It's obvious that this storyline has one root, and that is Lana becoming the sole survivor at Survivor Series, and probably in WWE's mind, the fans getting behind her. Number 3, the same Survivor Series storyline. Now, the current storyline of dissension amongst the various members of Raw Survivor Series teams is a reminder of the WWE's utter lack of creativity. This is a story that's repeated every year as teams attempt to coexist, and while it was used well last year when it sparked the feud between SmackDown teammates Roman Reigns and King Corbin, how many times do we need to see it happen? One way they could freshen this dynamic up is by giving some sort of reward for the winning team, such as a kayfabe cash prize or extra draft picks. The idea of bragging rights is worthless as few fans prefer one brand to another. While there is some interest in marquee battles such as the WWE Champion versus the Universal Champion, that situation is an exception. Even if there was any interest in brand supremacy, they never follow up on it. It's remembered for a week and then forgotten about. Let's give the fans a reason to think that teams have an interest in winning, and the storyline of them fighting might work. And number 4, dropping a moment of bliss. The WWE made a major blunder last night, promising a moment of bliss with Drew McIntyre and dropping the segment without any reason. It's bad enough that the WWE often neglects advertising segments and matches for Raw, but it's even worse when it hypes them and drops them without any mention. Obviously, the reason they've dropped the segment was Vince McMahon's mercurial mindset, but it's bad for business. Even if the WWE felt it wanted to change direction for McIntyre and The Fiend, it should have done something to replace it. Raw has enough problems with its ratings, and these kind of broken promises only make things worse. Now, nothing downright ugly about last night's show, but there was little to build up the fans' interest in Survivor Series. They do deserve credit for advertising matches for next week, but after promising a moment of bliss and failing to deliver, who's to say if the promised matches will even happen? What did you guys think of Raw last night? Let us know in the comments down below. Now, let's move on to the news. Now, our first story looks at The Undertaker's close Kliq pal and ex-WWF star returning for Survivor Series. The WWE continues to build up its Survivor Series celebration of The Undertaker's 30 years in the WWE with another guest announced for the Phenom's farewell address. The website Super Luchas is reporting that Juan Rivera, who participated in WWE as Kwang and Savia Vega, is set to return to WWE to be present for the retirement of his great friend The Undertaker. Taker will end a great run exactly 30 years after his first WWE appearance at Survivor Series 1990. Now, if you didn't know, Savia Vega was a member of the legendary Backstage faction, a group of wrestlers who traveled together during the mid-90s, including The Undertaker, Yokozuna, and The Godfather, not to mention other members like Rikishi and Henry Godwin. Wrestling legend has it that the group was organized to stymie the backstage maneuverings of the Kliq, but the story has often been denied or downplayed by the group's current members. Next up, Nia Jax Injures Again. Nia Jax has done it again. No, she hasn't put on a 3-star match yet. Instead, she appears to have accidentally injured another opponent in the ring. According to Wrestling News' Paul Davis, Mandy Rose appeared to have suffered an injury when she was thrown out of the ring by Nia Jax early tonight on Raw. As soon as she landed, the referee ran out and helped her to the backstage area so the trainers could check on her. If Jax did hurt Rose, or accidentally or recklessly, the WWE should fire her before someone gets seriously injured. Otherwise, Jax and the WWE could face a huge lawsuit for continuing to employ her. Next up, Braun Strowman wanted to revive Raw Underground. While Raw Underground has disappeared, one WWE superstar was willing to lend his name to the show in any way that he could help it. During an interview with Sports Illustrated, the former Universal Champion explained, "The third hour of Raw sometimes falls off with ratings, so I pitched an idea to bring the monster among men to Raw Underground in the third hour. It's so easy now to watch parts of the show on social media after it happens, but my goal is to get people to watch our live product. That's a huge factor why I went to Raw, which is where I first made a name for myself." Braun Strowman is extremely loyal to the WWE and has repeatedly thanked the promotion for the many opportunities afforded to him as a superstar. This is obvious by his offer to go to a poorly received segment like Underground. Do you think Strowman could have helped Raw Underground? Let us know in the comments down below. And finally, fans rip Chris Jericho on social media. Last but not least, AEW star Chris Jericho took to Twitter to celebrate his 50th birthday. Happy birthday to Le Champion, by the way. But he did so by posting a shirtless selfie to show off his physique. And in true Twitter fashion, a number of people tweeted their alarm at the sight of Jericho's less than perfect physique, including some of the following comments. Laughing my ass off. What was your goal with this? Sorry, got carried away. A 50-year-old behaving like a effing teen? Someone needs a breast lift or at least a sports bra. It shows it the Ric Flair tits. Now, this is funny because I'm sure most of those people in the comments down below wish they could even have a body at that age. I for one would love to have a body like that at 50. Okay, except for the Flair tits. But unfortunately, it's just a reminder that posting anything less than perfect on Twitter was an invite for trouble. But there you have it guys, the good, the bad and the downright ugly from last night's edition of Raw, as well as the wildest wrestling news stories you need to know. Be sure to leave your comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and Facebook for exclusive lists, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.